First contact misconceptions. The observation deck of the Valderan flagship, Eternal Dominance, offered an unparalleled view of the assembled armada. Commander Vex Krell stood with his forearms clasped behind his back, his scaled skin reflecting the ambient light as he surveyed his fleet of 30 warships. The Valderan Dominion had expanded across 17 star systems over 3 centuries, encountering and subjugating 6 lesser species. None had presented a significant challenge, and Krell saw no reason why this newly discovered civilization would be any different. Intelligence report, Analyst Mira, Krell commanded, his vertical pupils narrowing as he turned to face his senior intelligence officer. Analyst Mira activated her data terminal, projecting a holographic display of a blue-green planet. This species calls themselves humans. Commander, they have only achieved faster than light travel within the last 70 years. Our long-range scans indicate rudimentary shield technology and conventional weapon systems. Their communication networks are remarkably open, allowing us to intercept and translate much of their data. Military capabilities, Krell inquired, mandibles clicking with anticipation. Limited, Commander. We detect approximately 200 vessels spread across their 12 colonized systems. Most appear to be transport or science vessels with minimal armaments. Their military doctrine seems defensive rather than expansionist. Krell's secondary eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of satisfaction among his kind. Typical of immature species, they waste resources protecting every outpost rather than concentrating force where it matters. He gestured toward the tactical display. We will make our approach through this system, designated HC3 in their terminology. It contains a small outpost with minimal defenses, a perfect demonstration of Dominion superiority. Sir, Mira hesitated, her cranial ridges pulsing with concern. Shouldn't we first attempt diplomatic contact? The Dominion protocol for first encounters is at my discretion, Krell interrupted. History has shown that decisive action prevents prolonged resistance. These humans will understand their place in the cosmic hierarchy more quickly through demonstration than negotiation. The command staff acknowledged his decision with synchronized salutes. The Valderan way was clear. Expansion brought stability, and resistance merely delayed the inevitable. Lesser species ultimately benefited from Valderan guidance, whether they initially recognized it or not. 3 standard days later, the Valderan fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the HC3 system. Long-range scanners immediately began cataloging the system's features: a main sequence star, 7 planets, and an asteroid belt rich with mining potential. Contact detected, announced the sensor officer. Single vessel, approaching from the direction of the 4th planet. Krell leaned forward in his command chair. Classification: unknown configuration. Commander, size suggests a patrol vessel or light frigate. Energy readings are unusual. Unusual how? Krell demanded. The sensor officer's skin flushed a deeper blue, indicating confusion. Their power signature doesn't match our projections for their technology level. It's more concentrated, more efficient. A prototype perhaps, Krell dismissed. Put it on screen. The main display activated, revealing a sleek vessel approximately 1/4 the size of the Eternal Dominance. Its hull was dark gray with minimal external features, giving it a deceptively simple appearance. No visible weapons emplacements were apparent, though several ports along its hull suggested concealed systems. They're hailing us, Commander, the communications officer reported. Accept transmission. Let us meet these humans. The screen shifted to show a human with dark skin wearing a blue uniform adorned with modest insignia. The being sat in what appeared to be a command center, expression composed, and posture straight. This is Captain Ilara Chen of the UES Horizon. You have entered sovereign human territory. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. Krell studied the human with interest. Their species had a simplistic bilateral symmetry: 2 arms, 2 legs, and a single head with forward-facing eyes. Nothing remarkable. He straightened in his chair, displaying his full height. "I am Commander Vex Krell of the Valderan Dominion. Your system now falls under our protection and jurisdiction. Transmit your surrender protocols and prepare your leaders to receive terms of integration." The human captain's expression remained unchanged. "Commander Krell, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. Human space is not open for claim or conquest. I must ask you to withdraw your fleet immediately." Krell's mandibles clicked with amusement. "Captain Chen, you face 30 Valderan warships with a single vessel. The Dominion respects courage, but not foolishness. Stand down your weapons and prepare to be boarded." "That would be unwise," Chen replied, her voice remaining level. "This is your final warning. The Horizon is fully capable of defending human sovereignty. Withdraw your fleet now." The audacity of the human stirred Krell's temper. "Perhaps a demonstration is required. Weapons officer, target their propulsion systems. Disable only." The tactical officer acknowledged the command, and a moment later, a bright energy beam lanced out from the Valderan flagship toward the human vessel. What happened next defied Krell's expectations. The horizon seemed to shimmer briefly before the beam could connect. The energy discharge passed harmlessly through the space where the ship had been a fraction of a second earlier. The human vessel reappeared 50 kilometers starboard, having moved with impossible speed. "What happened?" Krell demanded, rising from his chair. "Unknown, Commander," the tactical officer stammered. "They appeared to utilize some form of short-range teleportation or spatial displacement." Before Krell could issue new orders, the human ship responded. Not with wild return fire as expected, but with precision. 3 small projectiles launched from concealed ports on the Horizon's hull. They moved at velocities that strained the Valderan sensors to track. "Incoming," shouted the tactical officer. The projectiles detonated before reaching the Valderan vessels, creating 3 spheres of distorted space. The distortions expanded rapidly, engulfing the forward section of the fleet. Ship systems within the affected area failed instantly, weapons, shields, and propulsion going offline simultaneously. "Report." Krell bellowed as warning signals flashed across the command center. 7 ships affected, Commander. All systems inoperative. The projectiles released some form of localized electromagnetic disruption field, but with properties we've never encountered. It's bypassing our shielding entirely. On the main screen, Captain Chen's face reappeared. "As you can see, Commander Krell, we are not defenseless. The effects on your vessels are temporary. This time, I strongly suggest you reconsider your position." Krell's pride warred with his tactical sense. This single vessel had neutralized nearly a quarter of his fleet without sustaining damage. Either human technology was far more advanced than intelligence suggested, or their ships possessed specialized capabilities developed specifically against invaders. "All vessels, converge on the human ship," Krell ordered. "Surround and overwhelm. Use all weapon systems." The remaining Valderan ships moved with practiced precision, forming a sphere around the horizon. It was a classic Valderan encirclement maneuver. No target, no matter how agile, could evade coordinated fire from every direction. "All ships in position," Commander, reported the tactical officer. "Fire," Krell commanded. 23 ships fired simultaneously, a barrage of energy weapons and projectiles converging on the human vessel. For a moment, Krell believed victory was assured. Then the impossible happened again. The space around the horizon distorted, bending the incoming fire away from the ship. Some beams intersected with others, creating explosive feedback that damaged the firing vessels. The human ship then accelerated, moving in patterns that defied conventional physics, weaving through the Valderan formation with impossible agility. As it passed each ship, systems failed in succession, not through explosive damage, but targeted electronic warfare that left the vessels intact but incapacitated. Within minutes, half the Valderan fleet drifted powerless in space. "This is impossible," Krell muttered, watching the tactical display in disbelief. "Commander," the sensor officer called out urgently, "we're detecting multiple new signatures at the system edge." Configurations matched the human vessel, but larger. Krell stared at the sensor readings as 5 new contacts appeared, emerging from what appeared to be folded space rather than conventional hyperspace transitions. The newcomers were significantly larger than the Horizon, with one vessel nearly matching the flagship's size. "They're hailing us again," the communications officer announced. The main screen shifted to show an older human in a darker uniform with more elaborate insignia. Behind them stood Captain Chen. "Commander Krell, I am Admiral Helena Mercer of the United Earth Defense Force. Your unprovoked aggression against the Horizon constitutes an act of war against humanity. However, we are prepared to resolve this situation without further bloodshed if you withdraw immediately." Krell's mind raced. The intelligence had been catastrophically wrong. These humans possessed technology that outmatched Valderan capabilities in several crucial areas. What should have been a simple demonstration of Dominion power had become a potential disaster. "A moment to confer with my officers, Admiral," Krell requested, signaling to cut the transmission temporarily. As the screen went dark, he turned to Analyst Mira. "Explain this discrepancy. How did we so grossly underestimate their capabilities?" Mira's scales had paled with distress. "Commander, I've been analyzing their communication patterns during this encounter. It appears we made a critical error in our intelligence gathering. What we intercepted was their civilian network, scientific and commercial communications. Their military systems operate on entirely separate protocols, heavily encrypted and isolated." "And the technology?" Krell demanded. "Based on what we're witnessing, humans appear to have developed along a different technological path than the Dominion. Where we focused on raw power and conventional physics, they've explored exotic physics applications, spatial manipulation, targeted electromagnetic disruption, and defensive systems that redirect rather than absorb energy." The tactical officer interrupted. "Commander, the human reinforcements have surrounded our remaining operational vessels. We are outmaneuvered and potentially outgunned." Krell stared at the tactical display, the reality of the situation becoming clear. His first contact with humans would also be his first defeat if he persisted. The Dominion had never retreated, but neither had it faced such an unexpected technological disparity. "Reopen communications," he ordered, his pride giving way to pragmatism. The reckoning. Admiral Mercer's face reappeared on the main screen, her expression neither triumphant nor hostile, merely resolute. "Have you reached a decision, Commander Krell?" she asked. Krell fought to maintain his composure. "Admiral Mercer, there appears to have been a significant misunderstanding. The Valderan Dominion approached your territory with peaceful intent to establish relations." A slight raise of the Admiral's eyebrow suggested she wasn't convinced. "Is that why you fired upon our patrol vessel after explicitly being asked to withdraw?" "A regrettable error in judgment," Krell conceded, his mandibles tight with suppressed fury at being cornered into diplomacy from a position of weakness. "Perhaps we can discuss terms for de-escalation." "The terms are simple," Mercer replied. "Your fleet will withdraw from human space immediately. You will provide technical assistance to your disabled vessels as needed. Within 30 standard days, the Valderan Dominion will send diplomatic representatives, no more than one ship with limited armaments, to our neutral station at Proxima Centauri for proper first contact protocols." As Mercer spoke, one of the human vessels moved alongside the nearest disabled Valderan cruiser. Rather than opening fire, it extended what appeared to be a utility tether, restoring power to the stricken vessel. As a gesture of good faith, Mercer continued, "We're providing emergency power to your affected ships. This should allow them to restore their systems within the hour." The display split to show the disabled cruiser's systems gradually coming back online. This wasn't the behavior of a species intent on destruction, but rather one demonstrating both capability and restraint. Krell considered his options. The Dominion Council would view withdrawal as failure, but complete defeat would be worse. "Very well, Admiral. We will withdraw once our vessels are operational. I will communicate your terms to my government." "A wise decision, Commander," Mercer nodded. Captain Chen will coordinate the recovery efforts. I suggest you use this time to learn more about the species you intended to subjugate. You might find us more complex than your intelligence suggested." The transmission ended, leaving Krell to contemplate the magnitude of his miscalculation. As the recovery operations began, he summoned Analyst Mira to his private chamber adjacent to the command center. "I want everything," he demanded. "How did we miss this? What else don't we know about these humans?" Mira hesitated before activating her data terminal. "Commander, I've been compiling information from direct observation and what the humans are allowing us to detect. Their technological development differs fundamentally from the standard progression we've observed in other species." The display showed comparative timelines of technological development. Most species, including Veldurans, develop technology in a predictable sequence: mastery of chemical energy, then nuclear, then antimatter, and finally unified field manipulation. Humans appear to have developed several branches simultaneously, with particular emphasis on adaptive systems. "Explain," Krell ordered. "Their vessels employ layered defensive systems. Rather than relying on increasingly powerful shields, they use spatial distortion to avoid hits entirely, quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication, and targeted countermeasures for specific threats." Mira brought up sensor readings of the horizon. "This patrol vessel alone contains technology we've only theorized. The most concerning aspect is how efficiently they integrate these systems." Krell studied the data with growing unease. "And their weapons? Primarily focused on system disruption rather than destruction," Mira explained. "They could have destroyed our vessels but chose incapacitation instead. This suggests either ethical constraints or strategic preservation of potential intelligence sources." A deeper concern formed in Krell's mind. Could they have developed these capabilities specifically as countermeasures against invasion? Mira's scales rippled, the Valduran equivalent of a solemn nod. "I believe so, Commander. Their history shows evidence of significant internal conflicts that would drive rapid military innovation. More importantly, I've detected references in their communications to previous encounters with other spacefaring entities." This revelation startled Krell. "They've met other species before us. At least 2 distinct, non-human civilizations," Mira confirmed. "The communications suggest at least one of these encounters was hostile. It appears humans have been preparing for encounters like ours for decades." On the command deck, recovery operations continued as the human vessels systematically restored power to the disabled Valduran ships. Through observation ports, Krell could see engineers in environmental suits moving with practiced efficiency. They weren't fumbling with unfamiliar technology. They understood precisely how to disable and restore Valduran systems. The implications were disturbing. Humanity hadn't just developed advanced technology. They had developed it specifically to counter threats like the Dominion. Their apparent isolation wasn't a sign of limited reach, but a deliberate strategic posture. "Commander," the communications officer called from the command deck, "Captain Chen is requesting to come aboard to discuss the withdrawal protocols." Krell straightened his posture. "Prepare a reception in the diplomatic chamber. Full honors." Minutes later, Captain Chen arrived with 2 officers. Up close, humans were more physically imposing than Krell had initially judged. Chen moved with a confident grace that spoke of both military discipline and personal authority. "Captain Chen," Krell greeted formally, "I appreciate your assistance with our vessels." "Commander," Chen nodded. "Admiral Mercer has authorized me to provide technical specifications that will help prevent any unfortunate resonance between our technologies during your withdrawal. We've discovered that certain Valduran energy frequencies can trigger unintended responses in our defensive systems." The casual revelation was telling. The humans had studied Valduran technology extensively enough to understand potential interactions. Krell accepted the data crystal she offered, noting the confident way she navigated his ship, showing neither fear nor excessive curiosity. "I must ask," Krell ventured, "how did a patrol vessel like yours manage to neutralize so many of our ships?" Chen's expression remained neutral. The Horizon is what we call a Sentinel-class vessel, Commander. While not primarily designed for combat, it carries integrated defensive and countermeasure systems specifically developed for first contact scenarios. You expected hostility? Krell asked. We prepared for all possibilities, Chen corrected. Humanity learned early that peaceful intentions aren't universal. The Horizon could have destroyed your leading vessels, but that wasn't our objective. We prefer to establish boundaries without unnecessary bloodshed. As they discussed withdrawal protocols, Krell gained a clearer understanding of human capabilities. Their technological advancement wasn't merely surprising. It was humbling. The Dominion had expanded through predictable star systems, encountering species with straightforward technological progression. Humans represented something different, a species that had faced adversity and adapted in unexpected ways. 4 hours later, the Valderan fleet prepared to depart. All ships had been restored to functional status. The weapons systems remained offline, a precaution the humans insisted upon until the fleet cleared their territory. From the observation deck, Krell watched as the human vessels maintained their position, a silent reminder of his failure. The largest vessel, named Resolute according to their communications, dwarfed his previous estimates of human capabilities. Its hull featured minimal ornamentation, but sensor readings detected energy signatures that suggested formidable defensive and offensive systems. All vessels report ready for hyperspace transition, Commander, his first officer announced. Krell nodded. Signal the withdrawal. As the Valderan fleet engaged their drives, retreating from human space, Krell composed his report to the Dominion Council. How would he explain that the easy conquest they had anticipated had instead revealed a species technologically superior in several crucial domains? How would the Council respond to the recommendation that expansion toward human territory be indefinitely postponed? The implications extended beyond this single encounter. If humans represented a new category of species, one that developed along unpredictable technological paths, then the Dominion's entire expansion strategy required reevaluation. The galaxy might contain other surprises, other civilizations that appeared primitive until challenged. In his private chamber, Krell reviewed the sensor logs one final time. The human vessels hadn't pursued, hadn't exploited their advantage beyond ensuring the Valderan withdrawal. This restraint suggested confidence rather than uncertainty. Commander, Analyst Mira interrupted his thoughts. I've completed translation of the data Captain Chen provided. It contains not just technical specifications, but a historical overview of human development. I believe they intended us to understand them better. And what have you learned? Krell asked. Their homeworld experienced multiple global conflicts before achieving unification. Their technology evolved rapidly in response to these pressures. More significantly, they encountered a hostile species 80 years ago that attempted colonization of their territory. What happened to this species? Krell asked, already suspecting the answer. The humans don't specify, but they mention establishing clear boundaries that have since been respected. Their defensive technologies appear to have developed substantially following this encounter. The implications were clear. Humanity had faced invasion before and had not merely survived but adapted. The Dominion's standard approach to expansion, overwhelming force against technologically inferior opponents, would have been disastrous against such an adversary. As the Valderan fleet entered hyperspace, leaving human territory behind, Krell made a decision that would alter the course of Dominion history. His report would recommend not just postponement of expansion in this sector, but a fundamental reassessment of their approach to first contact. The galaxy contained more than just simple prey and predictable opponents. Some species, like these humans, had evolved through adversity into something more dangerous, not because they sought conflict, but because they had learned to end it decisively when necessary. The Valderan Dominion had entered human space expecting easy conquest and instead received a lesson in humility. It was a lesson Krell would ensure his people did not forget. In the vast darkness between stars, as his fleet traveled home in defeat, Commander Vex Krell wondered what other surprises awaited the Dominion in the galaxy's unexplored reaches. For the first time in his career, the thought filled him not with anticipation, but with caution.